She gave one of the most beloved animated characters in Disney history her voice. She gave one of the most terrifying horror villains of the 2000s her face, and she was only 8 years old when she did the first one. Daveigh Chase died on June 16, 2026, at a Los Angeles hospital. She was 35 years old. The cause of death was complications from bacterial meningitis and a blood infection. And the memorial that gathered for her, held privately in the days following her death, was not the Hollywood farewell that her credits deserved. It was something smaller, more human, more honest about the full picture of a person whose talent was extraordinary and whose final years were extraordinarily difficult. Her father, John David Schwalier, confirmed her passing. Her family handled the arrangements, and the people who loved Daveigh Chase, the ones who had been searching for her, the ones who had hired a private investigator to find her, the ones who described her as the sweetest and brightest light in Hollywood, gathered to say goodbye to a woman they had never stopped fighting for. Let's start with who Daveigh Chase was, because the credits alone tell only half the story. Born on July 24, 1990, in Las Vegas, Nevada, and raised in Albany, Oregon, she began singing and dancing at age 3 at community events. She landed her first commercial for Campbell's Soup at 7 after a trip to Los Angeles. At 8 years old, she auditioned for the voice of Lilo. She got it, and in 2002, the year she turned 12, she had 2 of the most significant performances of any actor that year. Lilo in Lilo and Stitch, the warmest, most lovable, most completely alive animated character Disney had produced in years, and Samara in The Ring, the character that made audiences across the world afraid to look at their televisions. Same year, same voice, completely different frequencies of human experience. She also voiced Chihiro in the English-language version of Studio Ghibli's Spirited Away, meaning 3 of the most beloved films of 2002 carried her voice inside them. She was 12 years old. The open casket service was small, private, the family's choice, and the right one, because the public version of Daveigh Chase had been complicated by the circumstances of her final months, the contradictory accounts, the people who claimed proximity to her death that her family disputed, the GoFundMe launched by someone whose connection to her was questioned by the people who had known her for decades. Her former manager, a man who had known her for years, said simply, "We were so close to finding her." He said she was the sweetest and brightest light in Hollywood. He could not believe this was real. He said her legacy and her work would live on forever. Close to finding her. That phrase, in the context of a family and a circle of friends who had reportedly hired a private investigator to locate her in the months before her death, who knew she was struggling, who tried, who came as close as possible and who were not close enough in time. Daveigh Chase had been living a deeply difficult existence in her final months. Her father confirmed she had been homeless and was staying with her boyfriend near the hospital where she died. Friends described her final period as a tortured existence, marked by circumstances that the people who loved her had been desperately trying to address. She was 35 years old, and the child who had given warmth to Lilo and terror to Samara and wonder to Chihiro had spent her adult years navigating something the public never fully saw, the weight that child stardom can leave behind, the specific, invisible difficulty of building an adult identity when your most visible version was formed before you were a teenager. She appeared in Donnie Darko's Darko and HBO's Big Love. She retired from acting in 2016. She was still young enough, at 35, that a second chapter had always been possible. The memorial was for the family, for the people who knew her beyond the credits, who called her Daveigh, who hired a private investigator because they were not ready to stop looking, who gathered in a room and held each other and said goodbye to the girl from Albany, Oregon, who grew up to give Disney one of its most beloved voices, and who deserved so much more time. Daveigh Chase, July 24, 1990, June 16, 2026, aged 35. Ohana means family. Nobody gets left behind. Rest in peace, Daveigh. Thank you for watching.